The Hendrick Motorsports complex, employees are given an opportunity to stay on campus, fellowship, and have lunch together once a week. Steve Hudson is the chaplain at Hendrick Motorsports in the Charlotte area of North Carolina, serving the Hendrick family with his strong and caring leadership and as a friend to everyone on the staff. Between his 17 weekends on the road as chaplain with the AMA Supercross and the 12 additional weekends traveling as the chaplain for the AMA Outdoor Nationals, Steve Chappie Hudson holds Bible study at the Hendrick Motorsports compound.
This is what I'd like to see at every company, the opportunity for the gospel. Just like in the world, it's an opportunity for people to say yes or no, and that's what's offered here. And it was offered mainly through Rick's brother, Rick Hendrick, the owner. His brother John has a real passion for people, and his outreach was to start a Bible study. And through the Bible study, it's offered me a chance to develop relationships, walk around the shop, get to know people, and serve the Lord. I told John, asked me, he said, could you do it one time a month? And I said, sure. We started out with 9 people, and there may have been 109 there today. For every person that was down there, there's another guy up here in the shop that may never go down there. That's fine too. I'm not looking for numbers to come to a Bible study. I'm looking for people to pull me aside and ask me about who God is and about a relationship. It's the presence of someone like me, a chaplain or a pastor or minister, to be available to a company in the workplace. And I do my very best not to stay out of the way of what's going on. And God's favor. Ask for God's favor.
For Steve, sharing the truth of Jesus Christ comes in one form: honesty.
You know what we call that at my house? Feeling the pain. If you don't feel the pain, things don't change, right? Tell them the truth. Tell them that the world is it's beautiful. It was created by God. If the message of the world says, look like this, act like this, be like this, and you drew a line beside that and say, what does God say? God's saying, here's what you need. You need peace. I'll give you that. You need harmony in your marriages and in your home, and I can give you that. And that's what we're trying to break off and hand to these guys and these girls and men and women here at Hendrick Motorsports.
Donnie Floyd also works at Hendrick Motorsports, and like the others around him, Donnie has had to change his personal perspective on what church really is.
I'm a person that's been churched my whole life. I grew up in the church. My father's a pastor's son. And I received Christ when I was 14 at a camp with my church, like so many people do. But I really didn't step out and really present and introduce my faith until I started here at Hendrick Motorsports. I think a lot of the things that helped me make that change was I was kind of like, believers were over here and non-believers are over there. If you don't believe like us, then I don't really want to have anything to do with you. And it's then through some searching and through some tragedy, actually, here at Hendrick Motorsports, that I heard God call on me and ask for me to, you need to, these are my people. And what I need you to do is you need to talk to my people about me. And through that tragedy, I remember coming to the complex the day that plane crashed that night. I don't even know why I was coming here. But I came here and I called my brother-in-law, who's a pastor, and asked him if he would pray for our complex. And what he told me was, this is your time. There's people that are going to need someone to lean on, and this is your time to really talk to them about Christ. Well, the issue I was having was I didn't feel like I was capable of doing that. And what was unique about that is there were a bunch of camera people, and they approached me when I went to move a cone or something in the parking lot, and they wanted to ask a bunch of questions. And I answered their questions, and they asked a lot of things I didn't answer. But when the last question they asked is there anything else you want to share? And I said, now is the time where we need to step back and not blame anybody, no pilots, no era. We just let God do what he does.
It's just devastating. Such a great race team.
Employees comforting each other in the barricaded parking lot, wondering what to do next.
Mourn and pray. Be there for each other, and then we just move on. And I knew right then that God was working. So through that, I just, sometimes you got to see God work. And I've been to the point where I've yelled at him, and I said, I want to see you work. And he's always come through.
Even with all the success and accolades on a championship racing team, keeping your eyes on the right goal is most important to Donnie. And that right goal is the Lord Jesus Christ and salvation through him.
Personally worked with Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Casey Mears, Kyle Busch, Brian Vickers, Mark Martin. So you get to see a lot of really big name figures that are in our sport. And sometimes it's easy to get an ego with that. Really get caught up into the, making a race car your idol or your worship or your life. And, when I first started in the sport, that started happening to me. But luckily, through God's grace, he tugged on my conscience and reminded me that none of that matters. It really doesn't matter. And he put me in a position to say, you know what? Racing's good and fine and dandy, but in the long run, these people need Christ. And somehow somebody's got to tell them about that. And I feel like that's why he's put me here. I believe to look at people, and you got to learn to love on people no matter what they believe. And we have to remember that without Christ, we're all sinners. So we shouldn't expect anything any different out of anybody. So once I took that approach of looking at people and trying to love on them, I think people respond better to people that they're like, you know what? He cares about me no matter what I say or what I do. And it's not always easy, but I take that approach with everybody now. I feel like we need to really lift people up and let them know that, some people think that they're not fit enough or they don't do the right things to be Christians. And to be able to really get in the Word and explain to them people, apostles, the way they live, and to show them, they were a lot like us. They were a lot like us and did actually a lot of things worse than we've done or do. And to be able to get in the Word and share that with people and look at everybody from a neutral aspect and say that, God's grace is sufficient for all of us. No matter what you're going through, if we turn to Christ, he'll get us through it. And that doesn't mean life's going to be great all the time, but it does mean in those days when it's not so great, you have someone to turn to.
Out of the shop, Donnie has a great partner and wife named Jill. Her boldness, coupled with a quiet strength, helps keep Donnie focused on what is most central to their life and faith in God.
She's very quiet, but when she needs to say something, it's usually pretty much to the point. But a lot of times when I would struggle and have things to say or say I didn't want to do, that's when it seems like she would come forth with the proper response about faith and about maybe you're there for this or that. And my wife holds me accountable, and I think that's a good thing. She reminds me that we don't go through life. It's so easy to get caught up being on a race team with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and make a lot of money, get a lot of rings and a lot of trophies. But the bottom line is none of that really matters. It doesn't really matter, and my wife is good at keeping me on check on that. When I don't walk with Christ, I feel like I'm just wandering. Christ has brought peace to me. That defines me. I don't worry about a lot of things that non-believers worry about. I don't have to. Because at the end of the day, when I lay my head down, nobody may not like me, nobody may agree with me that is not of my faith, but I do know one man that does agree with me, and he shed his grace on me, and I'm reminded of that every day, that I was just like everybody else. I'm no different, except for the fact that I'm saved by God's pure grace.